He walked in with only $5. The cafe was small and quiet. Soft music played in the background. A few people sat at their tables, talking in low voices. Cups clinked. A coffee machine hissed. Then the door opened. A black man stepped inside. He stopped for a moment and looked around. He was not dressed fancy. His jacket was clean but old. His shoes had small marks on them. He looked calm, but inside his heart was beating fast. This was not just any evening. This was a blind date. He walked toward an empty table near the window. As he sat down, he slowly reached into his pocket. His fingers touched a few coins and one folded bill. He pulled them out and placed them on the table. $5. That was all he had. He stared at the money for a long second. Then he took a deep breath. Okay, he whispered to himself. Just stay calm. He looked at the menu. His eyes moved slowly down the page. Coffee, sandwiches, cake. Everything cost more than $5. His stomach tightened. He thought about leaving, just standing up and walking out. No one would stop him. No one would care. But then he remembered why he came. He had not been on a date in a long time. Life had been hard. Job after job did not work out. Bills came faster than money. Still, he told himself he deserved one normal evening. Just one. So he stayed. A waiter came over with a friendly smile. Can I get you something? The waiter asked. The man looked at the menu again, even though he already knew his answer. Just water, please, he said softly. The waiter paused for a second, surprised, but then nodded. Sure. As the waiter walked away, the man lowered his head slightly. He felt heat in his face. He felt small. He looked around the cafe again. That was when he noticed her. At the table next to his sat a woman in a clean, elegant dress. Her hair was neat. Her posture was straight. She was on her phone, speaking in a calm, confident voice. Yes, schedule the meeting for Monday, she said. No, I want the numbers by tonight. She ended the call and placed her phone down. The man did not know it yet, but this woman was a CEO, a single mother, a woman who built her life from nothing. But to him, she was just another stranger in a cafe. Still, something about her presence made him feel even more nervous. The waiter returned and placed a glass of water in front of him. Thank you, the man said quietly. He took a small sip and checked his phone. No new messages. He wondered what his date would be like. Would she laugh? Would she judge him? Would she leave when she saw his clothes? Then the door opened again. A woman walked in and looked around. The man felt his chest tighten. He knew. This was her. She scanned the room, her eyes moving from table to table. Then her gaze stopped. On him. Their eyes met. She hesitated for a moment, then smiled and walked toward him. Hi, she said. Are you? Yes, he replied quickly, standing up. That's me. They shook hands and sat down. She looked friendly, warm, normal. That helped him relax a little. So, she said with a small smile, I'm glad you came. Me too, he said. The waiter came back. What can I get you? The waiter asked her. She opened the menu and looked through it. The man's heart started racing. He watched her eyes move over the page. Coffee. There. Food. Inside his head, his thoughts were loud. Please don't order too much. Please don't order food. She looked up. I'll have a latte, she said. The man swallowed hard. The waiter nodded and walked away. The man forced a smile. His fingers slowly moved toward the $5 on the table. He pushed the money slightly closer to himself, as if that could help. I hope that's okay, she said kindly. I really needed caffeine today. It's fine, he replied. But inside, he felt panic. He was doing the math in his head. $5. A latte costs more than that. He felt embarrassed, ashamed, angry at himself. At the next table, the well-dressed woman looked up from her phone. She noticed the man's hands. She noticed his eyes. She noticed the way he kept looking at the money. She said nothing, but she was watching, and she was listening. The man leaned back in his chair and took another sip of water. He did not know it yet, but this night was about to change his life. Not because of money, but because of what people choose to see and what they choose to ignore. And the real story had just begun. One question that changed the air. The cafe felt different now. The noise was the same. The music was still playing. But for the man, everything felt heavier. He sat across from his blind date, trying to look calm. He kept his hands on the table, close to his glass of water. The $5 were folded neatly beside it. His date noticed his smile. It was polite, but careful, like someone trying not to show fear. She leaned back slightly in her chair. "So," she said gently, "tell me about yourself." The question sounded simple, but was not. The man paused. He had practiced answers in his head on the way there. Smart answers. Safe answers. Answers that made him sound better than his life really was. But now, looking at her face, he felt tired of pretending. "I'm still figuring things out," he said honestly. "I've had some tough months." She nodded, listening. "What do you do for work?" she asked. There it was. The question every man feared when he had nothing impressive to say. He took a slow breath. "I don't have a job right now," he said. "But I'm looking. Every day." Silence fell between them. It was not loud, but it was heavy. He waited for the look. The look people gave when they decided you were not worth their time. But it did not come. Instead, she studied his face. "That takes courage to say," she replied. He blinked, surprised. "Most people lie," she added. "You didn't." He nodded, unsure what to say. The waiter returned with her latte. The smell of coffee filled the space between them. The man's stomach twisted again. The waiter placed the cup down and smiled. "Enjoy," he said. The man watched the cup land on the table like it was a heavy stone. He forced himself to speak. "Order whatever you want," he said quietly. "Don't worry about me." She looked at him. "You sure?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "I invited you." His voice was steady, but his hands were not. He slid them under the table. She nodded and took a sip of her coffee. "That's kind of you," she said. At the table next to them, the well-dressed woman put her phone down. She was not trying to listen, but some moments were hard to ignore. She noticed how the man sat straight, even when he looked uncomfortable. She noticed how he spoke with respect. No anger, no excuses. She had seen many men with expensive suits and empty words. This one had nothing, but still offered something. Back at the table, the blind date smiled softly. "I like that you're honest," she said. "Life is hard enough already." He laughed quietly. "You're telling me," he replied. They talked about small things. Movies, favorite food, childhood memories. For a moment, he forgot about the money. Then the waiter returned again. "Anything else?" the waiter asked. She looked at the menu again. The man's chest tightened. "I think I'll get a sandwich," she said. The words hit him like a punch. He nodded slowly. "Of course," he said. Inside, panic exploded. He did the math again. $5. Coffee. Sandwich. Impossible. He stared at the table, his jaw tight. At the next table, the well-dressed woman noticed the change. The man's shoulders dropped slightly. His eyes lost their shine. She leaned back and crossed her arms, watching closely. The blind date noticed too. "Are you okay?" she asked. He hesitated. He could lie. He could laugh it off. But his voice came out low and honest. "I need to tell you something," he said. She leaned forward. "I only have $5, he admitted. "I didn't expect this to be easy for me, but I wanted to come anyway." The words hung in the air. People at nearby tables glanced over. The blind date looked at him for a long second. Then she smiled. "That's all," she said. He looked confused. "I can pay," she added. "I don't mind." Relief hit him, then shame followed. "I appreciate that," he said quietly. "I just didn't want to start with lies." She nodded. "I respect that," she replied. At the next table, the woman stood up. She picked up her purse. Her eyes were calm, but her decision was already made. This was not just a date. This was a test of character. And the next moment would reveal everything. When the bill came too early, the waiter came back faster than expected. He placed the sandwich on the table and smiled politely. "Enjoy," he said. The smell of warm bread filled the air. For the blind date, it was just food. For the man, it felt like pressure. He smiled at her and nodded, but inside his chest felt tight. His eyes moved again to the $5 on the table. It looked smaller than before. Much smaller. They talked a little more, but his focus was gone. Every sound felt loud. Every second felt heavy. Then the moment arrived. The waiter returned with a small black folder. "The bill, whenever you're ready," he said. The man froze. The folder rested on the edge of the table, quiet but powerful. He did not open it. He already knew. His blind date reached for it, then stopped. She looked at him. He swallowed. I was going to say something," he began. She waited. He opened the folder slowly. The numbers stared back at him. It was more than $5. More than he could fix. People at nearby tables were watching now. Not openly. Just quick looks. Side glances. Curiosity. The man felt his face grow warm. He reached for the $5 and placed it on the table, flat and neat. "This is all I have," he said quietly. The words were simple, but they carried years of struggle. The blind date looked at the money, then back at him. For a moment, he expected a laugh, or disappointment, or silence. Instead, she gently pushed the folder toward herself. "It's okay," she said calmly. "I've got this." He looked up, surprised. "You don't have to," he replied. "I want to," she said. "Dates are about people, not money." The waiter nodded and took the folder from her. As he walked away, the man leaned back in his chair. Relief washed over him, but it was mixed with something else. Shame. He stared at his hands. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to put you in that position." She shook her head. "You didn't," she replied. "You were honest. That matters." Still, he felt small. At the next table, the well-dressed woman had not missed a single detail. She saw the money. She saw the man's face. She saw the blind date's calm reaction. And she saw something else too. Dignity. The man did not beg. He did not complain. He did not blame the world. He simply told the truth. The waiter returned and placed the receipt in front of the blind date. She signed it without hesitation. "Thank you," the waiter said. As the waiter walked away, the cafe returned to its soft noise. But something had changed. The blind date leaned forward. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course," he replied. "Why did you still come tonight?" she asked. "You could have canceled." He thought for a moment. "Because I didn't want fear to decide my life," he said. "I've been broke before. I've been judged before. But I still believe in showing up." Her eyes softened. "That's rare," she said. At the next table, the well-dressed woman stood up. She placed her chair back quietly and picked up her purse. The man noticed movement from the corner of his eye. He looked up and saw her standing there. She walked toward their table. The blind date looked confused. "Excuse me," the woman said with a calm, strong voice. "I hope I'm not interrupting." The man felt his heart jump. "No, it's okay," the blind date replied. The woman smiled slightly. "I just wanted to say something," she continued. "I couldn't help but notice what just happened." The man lowered his eyes. "I've seen many people with money," the woman said. "And I've seen many people without it." She looked directly at the man. Very few handle the moment with grace. The cafe felt silent again. People were listening now. The woman reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. She placed some cash on the table. "For your kindness," she said to the blind date. Then she looked at the man again. "And for your honesty." The man was speechless. "I don't," he started. She raised her hand gently. "Please," she said. "Let me." She smiled once more. Then she added words that stayed in the air. "Sometimes the poorest man in a room is the richest in character." She turned and walked back to her table. The man sat still. His blind date looked at him, eyes wide. "Do you know who that was?" she whispered. He shook his head. "No," he said. He had no idea. But his night was far from over. And the real reveal was coming next, when silence turned into power. The cafe was quiet again. Not the normal kind of quiet. This silence felt heavy. Every table felt closer. Every sound felt louder. Even the coffee machine seemed to stop breathing for a moment. The man sat frozen in his chair. His blind date stared at him, then back at the woman who had just spoken. The woman stood calmly beside their table. Her posture was strong. Her eyes were kind but sharp. She did not rush. She did not smile too much. She looked like someone who knew exactly who she was. "I hope I didn't embarrass you," she said softly. The man shook his head quickly. No, ma'am," he replied. "I was just surprised." She nodded. "Surprise is normal," she said. "Truth usually surprises people." She turned to the blind date. "You handled that situation with grace," she said. "You didn't judge. You didn't make him feel small." The blind date smiled, unsure what to say. "I just tried to be fair," she replied. The woman nodded again. "Fairness is rare these days." The man finally found his voice. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You didn't have to do that." The woman looked at him closely. "I know," she replied. "That's why I did." Those words landed deep. He felt them in his chest. She pulled out a chair and sat down at their table, uninvited but welcome. "May I ask you something?" she said to him. "Yes," he replied. Why did you place the money on the table like that? She asked. Flat. Neat. Honest. He thought for a moment. Because it's all I had, he said. And I didn't want to hide it. She smiled slightly. Most people hide their truth, she said. Even when they have plenty. She leaned back. I've sat in many cafes like this, she continued. Evie, what's its min pao? Lie. Pretend. She looked around the room. They wear expensive watches, she said. But their character is cheap. The cafe listened. No one interrupted. Then she said something that changed the air. My name is Maya, she said. I run a company. The blind date's eyes widened. A company? She asked. Maya nodded. Yes, she replied. A large one. The man felt his heart skip. He looked at her again. The calm voice. The confidence. The way people nearby suddenly avoided eye contact. It made sense now. I'm also a single mother, Maya added. I raised my son while building my life from nothing. She looked directly at the man. I've been broke, she said. I've had only a few dollars. I've sat where you're sitting. The man swallowed hard. I know that look, she continued. That mix of hope and fear. He nodded slowly. I didn't want pity, he said. I just wanted a chance. Maya smiled. And you showed up, she said. That matters. The blind date looked between them, emotional. I didn't know tonight would turn into this, she said softly. Maya chuckled. Life rarely announces its lessons, she replied. She stood up again. I won't take more of your time, she said. But I want to leave you with something. She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. She placed it in front of the man. My office, she said. Come see me tomorrow. The man stared at the card. His name. Her company logo. He looked up confused. I don't understand, he said. Ido, Maya replied. You passed the test. Most people fail. She leaned closer. Money tests comfort, she said. But struggle tests character. She straightened. I hire skills, she said. But I trust character. The blind date covered her mouth, shocked. Are you serious? She asked. Maya nodded. Very. The man's hands trembled as he picked up the card. Thank you, he said, his voice breaking. I won't waste this. Maya smiled. I don't think you will. She turned to leave, then stopped. She looked back at the cafe, at the people who watched quietly, and she said one last thing. Never confuse wealth with worth. Then she walked away. The door closed behind her. The cafe slowly returned to life. But the man remained still. The blind date looked at him and smiled through tears. Well, she said softly, this turned into something unforgettable. He nodded. Yes, he replied. And deep inside, he knew this was no longer just a date. This was the beginning of a new chapter. She was not just a CEO. The cafe felt warmer now, not because of the lights or the coffee, but because something real had been shared. The man sat quietly, holding the business card in his hand. He kept looking at it, as if it might disappear. His blind date watched him, smiling softly. Are you okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. I think so, he replied. I just didn't expect any of this. She laughed gently. Neither did I, she said. But the story was not over. A few minutes later, the cafe door opened again. Maya walked back inside. The man looked up, surprised. She walked straight toward their table. I forgot something, she said calmly. She pulled out her phone and placed it on the table. But maybe this moment needs more than a business card. She sat down again. The blind date looked confused, but curious. Maya looked at the man. I want you to understand why I did this, she said. Not as a CEO, but as a human. The man nodded. I'm listening, he said. Maya folded her hands. 10 years ago, she began, I was sitting in a place like this. Broke. Tired. Afraid. She looked down for a moment. I had a small child at home. No savings. No safety net. The cafe noise faded away. I went on a meeting once, she continued. I had only enough money for the bus ride back. She smiled slightly. The man across the table talked about success, she said. He didn't know I was counting coins. The man felt his throat tighten. People judge me by my clothes, Maya said. By my silence. By what I did not have. She looked up at him. That night, someone gave me a chance, she said. Not because I was ready, but because I was honest. The blind date wiped her eyes. That chance changed my life, Maya continued. I worked harder than anyone. I failed. I cried. I kept going. She leaned back. And now, she said softly, I watch moments like tonight. She looked at the man again. You reminded me of myself. The man swallowed hard. I don't have much to offer, he said. But I work hard. And I don't quit. Maya nodded. That's enough to start, she replied. She turned to the blind date. You handled this with kindness, she said. That tells me a lot about you too. The blind date smiled. I just believe people deserve respect, she said. Maya smiled back. So do I. Maya stood up again. I won't promise you anything easy, she said to the man. Only an opportunity. She paused. You can say no, she added. The man shook his head. I won't, he said. I've waited for a chance like this. Maya smiled. Good, she said. Come tomorrow morning. Be early. She turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing, she said. She looked around the cafe again. I didn't help you because you were poor, she said. I helped you because you were brave. And she walked out for the second time. The door closed gently. The man sat back in his chair. He let out a breath he did not know he was holding. The blind date laughed softly. Well, she said, I think tonight changed both our plans. He smiled. Yes, he replied. It really did. They stood up and walked toward the door together. Outside, the night air felt cool. Can I be honest? She asked. Please, he replied. I didn't come here expecting much, she said. But I'm glad I met you. He nodded. Me too, he said. They exchanged a warm look. This date may not turn into love. Or maybe it would. But one thing was clear. This night was about more than romance. It was about dignity. About showing up. About being seen. As the man walked away, he held the business card tightly in his hand. $5 had brought him here. But honesty had opened the door. And tomorrow, everything could change when the room looked at him differently. The next morning came fast. The man did not sleep much that night. His mind kept replaying everything. The cafe. The $5. Maya's words. The business card. At sunrise, he stood outside a tall glass building. He looked up. This was Maya's company. People in clean suits walked past him. Some talked on phones. Others laughed. He adjusted his jacket and walked inside. The receptionist looked up. Good morning, she said. Do you have an appointment? Yes, he replied. With Maya. The receptionist paused, then smiled. She's expecting you, she said. Please wait. That sentence alone made his heart beat faster. Maya came out a few minutes later. She was dressed sharp, confident, in control. But when she saw him, she smiled warmly. You came early, she said. I didn't want to be late, he replied. She nodded. That tells me something already, she said. She led him into a meeting room. Inside, a few people sat around a long table. Men and women in business clothes. Some looked curious. Some looked unsure. Maya stood at the head of the table. This is the man I told you about, she said. The room went quiet. He has no fancy degree, Maya continued. No big title. No perfect past. Some people exchanged looks. But he has honesty, she said. And character. She turned to him. Tell them your story, she said. He hesitated. But then he spoke. He talked about his struggles. His mistakes. His search for work. His decision to show up for the date with only $5. He did not ask for pity. He did not hide his fear. When he finished, the room was silent. Then someone clapped. Slowly, others joined. Maya smiled. We don't need perfect people, she said. We need real ones. She looked at him. I want you to start with us, she said. Today. The words hit him hard. Thank you, he said. I won't let you down. I know, she replied. Later that day, he walked out of the building with a badge around his neck. For the first time in months, his back felt straight. That evening, he returned to the same cafe. Not because he needed to, but because he wanted to. The same waiter was there. The waiter looked up and froze. Hey, the waiter said. You were here last night, right? The man smiled. Yes, he said. The waiter glanced at his clothes. His posture. The calm confidence in his voice. Can I get you something? The waiter asked. Coffee, the man replied. And a sandwich. The waiter nodded quickly. At another table, a couple whispered. Isn't that the guy from last night? One of them said. Yeah, the other replied. The one with no money. The man heard them, but did not hurt anymore. The blind date walked in. She saw him and smiled wide. You look different, she said. He laughed. I feel different, he replied. They sat together. She listened as he told her about the job. I knew you were special, she said. He shook his head. No, he said. I was just honest. The waiter brought the food and placed the bill on the table. The man did not rush. He took out his wallet. This time, there was more inside. He paid calmly. As the waiter walked away, the cafe owner approached. I saw what happened last night, the owner said. You handled yourself well. Thank you, the man replied. People like you are welcome here, the owner added. The words meant more than free food ever could. At the next table, someone whispered, that's the guy. Not with pity, with respect. The blind date smiled at him. Funny how fast things change, she said. He nodded. Only on the surface, he replied. Inside, I'm the same. She looked at him closely. That's the best part, she said. As they stood to leave, the man looked around the cafe one last time. This place had seen him at his lowest. Now it saw him standing tall. Respect was not given. It was earned. And he had earned it by staying true to himself. One chapter was closing. Another was about to begin. And the final moment would bring everything full circle. He walked in with $5 and walked out with dignity. 1 year later, the same cafe stood on the same street. Same door. Same smell of coffee. Same soft music. But the man who walked in was not the same. He entered calmly, wearing clean, simple clothes. Nothing flashy. Nothing loud. But everything about him felt steady. The waiter looked up. For a moment, the waiter stared. Then his eyes widened. Hey, the waiter said slowly. I remember you. The man smiled. I remember you too, he replied. Please, the waiter said, pulling out a chair. Sit anywhere you like. The man chose the same table near the window. The table where everything once began. He sat down and looked around. A year ago, this place had seen him nervous, quiet, afraid. Today, he felt peace. The waiter returned. What can I get you? He asked. The man looked at the menu, not because he needed to check prices, but because he enjoyed the moment. I'll have coffee, he said, and lunch. The waiter nodded with respect. As the man waited, he looked at his phone. A message popped up. Meeting confirmed. Great work this year. He smiled and placed the phone down. At another table sat a woman with her child. The child laughed softly. The man watched them for a moment. Then the cafe door opened again. A woman walked in. Confident, calm, strong. It was Maya. She looked around the cafe and smiled when she saw him. She walked over and sat down across from him. Looks like you made it, she said. Because you gave me a chance, he replied. She shook her head. No, she said. Because you took it. They shared a quiet moment. Do you remember this table? She asked. I'll never forget it, he replied. Maya smiled. You've grown, she said. He nodded. But I stayed the same where it matters, he replied. She nodded back. That's why you succeeded. The waiter brought the coffee and food. The man paid without looking at the bill. No fear. No scum. Just calm. Maya watched him carefully. Do you know what impressed me most that night? She asked. He shook his head. You didn't complain, she said. You didn't blame anyone. You respected yourself. He smiled softly. I didn't know what else to do, he replied. That's character, Maya said. At the door, another familiar face appeared. It was the blind date. She paused when she saw him. Then she smiled and walked over. Wow, she said. I almost didn't recognize you. He laughed. I hope that's a good thing, he said. It is, she replied. She looked at Maya, then back at him. You changed, she said. He shook his head. No, he said. I was always this person. Life just caught up. They all shared a smile. The blind date sat with them for a moment. I still tell people about that night, she said. About the man with $5. Maya raised her cup. To the man with $5, she said. They laughed softly. Outside, the sun shined through the window. The cafe felt warm. The man looked around one last time. A year ago, he almost walked out. A year ago, he almost let fear win. But he stayed. He showed up. And that made all the difference. As he stood to leave, the waiter stopped him. I just want to say something, the waiter said. That night, you taught me something. The man looked surprised. That money doesn't define people, the waiter continued. Character does. The man nodded. That's true, he said. He walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned back and looked at the cafe. This place had seen his lowest moment. Now it saw his strength. He opened the door and stepped outside. The world felt wide. The future felt open. He walked away with confidence. Not because he had money, but because he had dignity. And that was something no one could ever take away. End arrow, final message to audience. Never judge a person by what's in their pocket. Judge them by what's in their heart.